This is a video series I've been itching to get started for a couple of weeks now. Through bathroom renovations at the moment, and my studio, I don't have an indoor studio, so it's usually outdoors, and we've had some very windy weather, a few showers, that sort of thing. Probably with the bathroom, supply. Finding hardware and stuff, getting it delivered has been a problem, which leads me on to a little story, a true story. About 9 years ago, this area here went through very severe flooding. In fact, most of Queensland and down into New South Wales. I may have mentioned on other videos before. One of the issues with the severe flooding and the lead up to it was fuel supplies. Now, I live in a rural area. There's a small town up that way, about 10k. Got a small fuel station, gas station. We call them servos here in Australia. And during the lead up to the devastating floods that caused a lot of damage and some fatalities, fuel stations or servos were rationing fuel for emergency services and critical services such as civil contractors, private contractors to repair and clean up after the flood. During that time, a lot of the servos were closed, particularly in Toowoomba. Some were opening, but severely rationing fuel, whether it was we call it petrol here in Australia, it's called gasoline overseas, and diesel. So after a while, I think it was in the aftermath of the floods for at least a week, because all the road and rail infrastructure had been trashed, totally trashed. And a lot of these big servos operate on the JIT system, a just-in-time ordering system. So each day, when you go in and pay for your fuel, put it through the register, plastic card or cash, it automatically, theoretically, sends what's left in the ground tanks back to the local wholesale depot, or perhaps the bigger one in Brisbane. So the tankers come out automatically and try and keep the fuel levels according to demand and supply in the ground tanks to the Bowsers at a sustainable level. In other words, they don't run out of fuel. So during the floods and the aftermath, the fuel stations that were open were still rationing fuel for emergency services, critical services, that sort of thing. And generally speaking, a lot of people, private citizens and that sort of thing, needed fuel too to get to work. And it was causing some conflict at the servos that were open with ration fuel. And I heard of a couple of cases where it was getting quite nasty. So on a smaller scale, fuel supplies are critical, and when we work on a just-in-time system, when everything's all right, the infrastructure's fine, the roads are fine, the highways, railways and that sort of thing, that's great. Usually works pretty well. In times of disaster, no. And this is first-hand experience. This is what we experience, and I've seen it happen before in other natural disasters. Okay, people might say, well, okay, what's this series all about? That's just an example on a very small scale. The next episode, I'm hoping to get done as soon as possible. It'll be a new playlist. Is what happens on a national scale when fuel supplies are threatened by not just natural disasters, but more along the line of the logistics supply of fuel from refineries, overseas refineries, our dependence on refined fuels, crude oil, how much this country is self-reliant, and the potential threats that exist to our international supply lines. So that's the next episode, and I'd like to give a shout out at this point in time, and I'll do it again in the next episode, to one of my Australian subscribers. Warbles on a lot. Look on his YouTube. He first brought this information on a national scale to the highlight around about May last year, and then he tackled it again about 6 months ago. And I've been talking to him, and yes, I've done a lot of research in the past few weeks, and I've talked to him, and this is just to how shall I say, emphasise the information he posted on his videos, and he's quite happy with me doing that. So the next episode, I'm not sure when, hopefully when I can get some time. We've got a lot of noise going on around here with building and so on, yada yada yada. So I'll get the next episode posted as soon as possible. Thanks for watching, folks, and I'll see you next episode.